Hey guys, Ben the Bondsman here. I just wanted to talk about something that happened today. Um, I was at one of my local stores here buying a pistol, and while I was buying a pistol, this gentleman walks up and he starts, inquiring about um, buying his mom and his sister a pistol for home protection and self protection, and I'm talking back and forth with this guy, and I asked the guy at the gun counter that I know pretty well. Uh, I said, I couldn't remember the name of it, and I was like, "Isn't it the Castle Doctrine that protects you in your home?" And he says, "Yeah." Well, this other guy walks up and he's like, "Yeah, what do you want to know about the Castle Doctrine? I'm law enforcement. I'm a licensed PI and a bail bondsman." And I said, I don't need to know about the Castle Doctrine. I'm talking to this guy here. He's like, "Yeah, well, I'm law enforcement and blah, blah, blah." So I, I cut my conversation short with the guy that I was engaged in conversation with. And I turned to this guy and I'm like, "So being a bondsman and a PI makes you law enforcement?" And he's like, yeah, PI and law enforcement, same thing. I was like, "Really? How do you get into that? You know what? That sounds pretty neat." And he's like, "Well, you got to get a PI license and you got to go to a school in Texas, a course in Texas to teach you how to be a bondsman. And then you take a class in Jackson, which in Mississippi here, our association puts on a pre-licensing course in Jackson. And then you get your license, and that's how you get it." And I was like, "And that makes you law enforcement?" And he's like, "Yeah, you know." And I can't remember everything that we talked about, but this exchange went on for probably a good 5-6 minutes. And really, what I was gonna do was I was just gonna say, "Dude, look, I'm a bondsman. You really need to check your information before you start telling people the wrong thing." But he didn't stop there. He says, "Look, man, I'm not BSing you." And he pulls a badge wallet out with one of those little, $15 badge and ID deals you get offline, whatever. And it's got his little identification card and with his picture on it. And I lost it. I started yelling at this guy standing right there in the middle of the store at the gun counter. And just everything about the guy was what's wrong with the bonding industry and some of the people that try to represent it. And this guy wasn't. One of the questions I asked him was, "So, when you get licensed to be a recovery agent, do you got to work for somebody?" And he's like, "No, you got to. You can work for yourself. You don't have to work for anybody." Well, in Mississippi, you have to either be the bonding company owner or you have to have a bonding company owner on your license. Um, my license is a professional agent's license. I'm the bonding company owner. And then I have enforcement and soliciting agents under me, and my license name and number have to be on their license for their license to be valid. So when this guy pulled that badge out, I'm like, "Look, you need to put that badge back in your wallet. You need to go throw it away and just stay at the house. You don't need to be out here representing yourself as something that you're not. So you're the reason why this industry has such a bad name, a bad reputation, is because you running around giving out false information." So number one, a course in Texas does not qualify you to be anything in Mississippi. Number two, you do have to have a professional agent's license on your license in order for your license to be valid. And number three, that doesn't make you law enforcement. I said, you've broken two laws just standing here talking to me. One, you're not a licensed bondsman, and if you're doing recovery work and I find out about it, I'm going to make sure you go to jail for it. And two, if you represent yourself as law enforcement again and I find out about it, I'm going to make sure you're charged with that as well. So, and normally I wouldn't take such a strong position. If somebody wants to get into the recovery business or PI work or law enforcement or whatever they want to get into, I'm cool with that. But do it the right way. And not only are you going to do it the right way, but you don't need to be out in public representing yourself, flashing a badge, thinking that the people that you're talking to are ignorant to what you are. I'll admit that most people that aren't in the bonding industry don't know the difference between us and law enforcement, but that's what separates the professionals from the wannabes. You got a wannabe out there running his mouth and flashing a badge, and then you have a professional come knocking on your door. Well, you're taking that information that wannabe is giving you, and you're trying to employ it while you're dealing with a professional at your door. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, my friend is a bounty hunter and he said you can't do this and you can't do that and you have to do this and you have to do that, and then you have to give somebody a reality check right there at their front door. It's just not cool, because it makes for an unsafe situation when you got somebody that's not educated in this line of work to the legalities of what we do and what we can and can't do, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do. And you got somebody out there just flapping their gums and running their mouth. It makes me angry. I got so mad. I was yelling at this guy. My hands were shaking. I could barely talk. And admittedly, that was probably wrong on my part. Now, I wasn't cussing him or nothing like that. I wasn't being disrespectful. I was just being very matter of fact and to the point. I don't understand people's mentality when they're standing in a public place talking about something. And I told this guy, I said, while you're sitting here spouting off stuff that isn't correct, you never know who's standing beside you. You never know who's listening. You're going to wind up getting yourself in a lot of trouble. And, he's like, well, I do some work for so-and-so. And I'm like, man, that dude's been dead for 2 years. I knew the guy personally when he was alive. He was a good guy, but he's been dead. So this guy stepped on himself again. Then he started backstepping. Oh, I didn't say this. I didn't say that. And finally, I was like, dude, what you need to do is you need to leave this store. You need to just get out of here, because I'm still doing business. I'm going to be a little bit longer, and I don't need you around me. Because it was getting to that point where, just his ignorance was feeding my anger. And, like I said, maybe I was wrong for that. But a lot of you guys that have been in this business for several years, or, 5, 10, 20 years, and you've run into these people and you've talked to these people, overheard them talking to other people, just spouting off stuff that don't even make any sense. Trying to give advice to somebody based on him being law enforcement when the guy probably doesn't have a clue what law enforcement is. I don't know. I'd really like to know what some of you other agents and bondsmen think, if maybe it was a little too much, or, I know a lot of you guys out there in other states don't have to be licensed and don't have to go through any kind of formal training. And, that's cool. That's your state. That's your thing. But here in Mississippi, it's against the law to bounty hunt if you're not licensed. It's against the law to bounty hunt if you're not eligible to be licensed. If I want to hire somebody to answer the phones at my office, they have to be legally eligible to hold a bonding license to just do that. They don't have to have the license to do that. But to do anything in our field in Mississippi, you have to at least be eligible. And to actually do the job, you have to be licensed, or it's a charge. You know, it's only a misdemeanor here, but it's still a charge. So it's about like impersonating a police officer. It's impersonating a bail agent. But give me some of y'all's thoughts on it. Put some comments under the videos. Let me know what you think. That's it for now. Ben the Bondsman, signing out.